Welcome to the Rich with Purpose podcast, the finance podcast that's about more than just money. I'm your host, Thabojan, financial advisor to hundreds of successful clients over the years. In each episode of this show, I speak with other experts in the complex world of money and finance, and together we discuss how you can ensure you make smart decisions with your money. Even more importantly, how to connect those decisions with your values and your purpose in order to achieve everything that is most important to you. Please note that everything we discuss is not personal advice, but general in nature. For the full disclaimer, please visit our website, richwithpurpose.com.au, where you can also register your details to get access to all our free resources. And please hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. In today's episode, I speak to Baz Gardner. Baz is the founder of The Social Advisor, a firm that helps other businesses create greater impact for their clients and customers. What's unique about Baz is his obsession with the development of the profession of advice. In this episode, we really delve into the concept of money and purpose. Baz shares how he has helped hundreds of individuals and businesses to disrupt their decision-making framework, creating more than $1 billion of additional value for his clients. We also talk about the benefits of having a particular focus on helping people to understand themselves, their motivations, and the biases they hold, which affect both their performance and individual fulfilment and life experience. And make sure you listen to the end, where Baz tells us about his own purpose and how he is going about achieving it. So if you're interested in learning how to connect your money to your purpose, you will enjoy this episode of the Rich with Purpose podcast. Welcome, Baz Gardner, to the Rich with Purpose podcast.
Awesome. Very excited to be here.
This is a podcast called Rich with Purpose. Our focus is on being someone in the money business and helping and advising people with everything to do with money. And you have a similar background as well. The podcast itself is changing that view to not just focus on money, but focusing on purpose, but making good decisions with money with that view of focus on purpose. And that's something that we've spoken about many times over the years. And I thought it would be really good to get you on just to help our listeners get a better sense of, what the hell does that mean when we're talking about purpose? What does purpose have to do with money at all? Don't you just make decisions with, where to invest and what to do with your cash? What is this concept of purpose? That's not something that we worry about when we think about money. We just want to make more money, right? So as you and I know, it's a lot more than that. And as you and I know, we've been able to take people's lives to the next level when we've been able to help them understand and engage with that deeper concept of purpose. It's not for everyone, but we find that those that do are far more enriched. And I guess, again, the whole reason behind starting this podcast is to share that with more people. That's what I want to do, share the love with more people. So
I'm very excited, obviously, to help you do that, Thabojan.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we get into that whole conversation, that big conversation, Baz, can you just share with everyone a little bit about how you got into advice? And you're not advising individual clients for financial advice right now, but how you made that transition and I guess weave into that how purpose fits into that as well.
Yeah, I'd be very, very happy to. So my background originally is in, investment markets, and, I have a Bachelor of Business in Property Economics, and, graduate diplomas in technical analysis and investment analysis. And so I got into financial planning via the stockbroking route. Wanted to kind of delve into going deeper with people. Couldn't really find a business, 25 years ago that was interested in doing those things in that way and charging a fee for it. And so I started my own firm at, 23, 24. And to begin with, my focus was definitely on helping people who are on a successful trajectory to be more financially successful, right? So super interested in, how to minimize costs and tax and how to get better returns and, investment in all of those components.
It's all
And
about
it's
making more money, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and a particular story has come to me that I might share that will help give a bit of an idea of one of the pivotal points for me in my advice journey. So just for a bit of background for everyone, I built that business up over a 15-year period. It was reasonably successful at doing that. And I sold it 10 years ago. And I'm still an advisor. It's just my fulfillment and my purpose, I've come to realize, is about helping other advisors push the envelope and create better outcomes for clients. So, one of my clients once told me about when I'm talking to them about their fulfillment, and they said, look, using the sporting analogy, I'm the guy that likes to set people up to score the goal. I don't want to be, I'm not the guy that gets the buzz out of scoring the goal. I want to set someone else up for that. And I've come to realize that for me, I'm still an advisor. It's just I'm meant to advise, other advisors. But 15-year business in helping individuals to, move forward. And certainly by the end of that 15 years, I came to realize that money was just a tool rather than the objective itself. And it's almost irrelevant unless you understand how it fits directly with who that person is, how they make decisions, what fulfills them, what their purpose in life is. And if you can bring those things together, then you create something far more magical, if I can use that word, than just, I help someone, be a little bit richer and, have a better technical outcome. So the story that I'm going to share is, and I'll remove any references to specifics here. So bear with me as I remember the story, the experience, but also remove those bits. So a client of mine, let's call him Peter, and he was working for a very big, global organization that over the years had become pretty successful. Been a consolidation. He'd picked up a global partnership as a consequence of that. And the shares, as a result, worth a lot of money. And, as he was a senior associate, went to be partner, went to be global partner. And as associate, this is going back, a long time ago now, so 20 something years. So he was earning about 300,000, so pretty good dollars. But then as a global partner, earning 1.5 million, which is probably the equivalent of about 2.5 Australian now. And he had this shareholding, and every year there'd be a little bit more that would vest. So there'd be a technical value, but only a certain amount that's vested, right? So his shares at the time were worth something like 18 million. About 3.5 million of them were vested. So in other words, that's what he could actually get his hands on. And then every year, the gap would get bigger. So it's, the golden handcuff, so to speak. Anyway, so this guy had 6 kids, right? And I'd been to his house and, met his wife and met his kids and all of this stuff. And he'd always be difficult to get a hold of. He'd always be questioning the advice we're giving. The stuff I came up with for him was technically brilliant and certainly helped him make more money. But he was always wanting to push the envelope. Well, how do I reduce my tax more? How do I do this? How do I do that? And you know what? One day I just woke up and I'm like, I was feeling stressed. I was feeling stressed trying to be the financial advisor to this particular person. And I just said, what am I doing? Why am I trying to give him what he's telling me he wants, which isn't actually what he wants? Right? And I know this for a fact. And so I said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. This is putting me in conflict with myself. This is draining my energy. So I might be getting paid well from this client, but it's not in alignment with myself. So I guess I was learning this lesson on both sides of this equation. So I called him up and said, look, I've got to meet with you. You need to make the time. It has to happen, right now, or I can't be your advisor. And he was like, oh, okay. So he took that pretty seriously, and he did. And I sat him down and just said, look, I've been doing the wrong thing. I've been trying to help you to make more money, to get better returns, to do all these things, instead of actually helping you be you and have a better life. So I'm going to be blunt with you, and you can tell me to bugger off at any point in time. But why are you asking me to do this? Why are you worried about, whether I saved you 50 grand in tax or 300 grand in tax? Why? What are you doing? Whose life are you living? I said, you've got 6 kids. You hardly see them. You're too busy to do anything. You're worried about, $1,000 here, $1,000 there. Yet you spent 160 grand on watches last year. I said, whose life are you living? Who are you trying to impress? Why are you doing this? I said, from all accounts, you were much happier when you were an associate. You loved what you were doing. You could pick the clients you were working with. And I'm going to tell you now, if you forget all of this spending money for the sake of it so you can display to other people, I said, you could stop work right now if you wanted to, and you'd have enough money. So what the hell are you doing? I'm not going to help you make more money. I want you to get more out of your life. Anyway, long and short of that story is, because of my advice, I cost him about, so it was about 14 million or something like that, because he decided to stop being a partner, to give it up and go back to being an associate. And because of that, he did his, those remaining shares weren't there. But the difference was, all of a sudden he was happy. He was saving more money. His income went from this to this, but he went back to focusing on what was important. So that was kind of a real pivotal moment for me. What's the point of money? If you've made money the point, then you're corrupting your own sense of fulfillment and your own direction. And by the same
token, let's just pause there for a second. So you got this guy, he's obviously worth a lot of money. He's making tons of money. And, we see people in this situation all the time. It's not everybody, but there are lots of people over the years that, you've helped, and we certainly help in our firm in those situations. And clearly he has made a lot of money and is making a lot of money, and he's probably paying you a lot of money to be his advisor. And so you've told him you don't need as much money anymore, or you need to stop worrying about money. Okay, so
let me kind of answer that in this way. And you and I have talked about this many times as well. It's not that money's a problem. Like, it's got to be a factor in your decisions. It's just that it shouldn't be the factor at exclusion of what is actually important to you in your life. So the question for him is, how far do you need to go? Who do you need to impress? What's actually meaningful to you? Is it more important for you to, end up at the end of your career being worth 70 or 80 million, right? Which is, he would have been on trajectory for, doing another 15 years and finishing out his partnership? Or is it more important to you that you get to spend time with your family, that you're doing work that you love, and that you still will never have to worry about money if you stop trying to spend it just to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, and impress, the other global partners?
So what was his reaction when you confronted him with?
Look, it was unpleasant for him, but the unpleasantness was the truth. I mean, I wasn't giving him this out of anything other than, compassion. It wasn't criticism. I just wanted to tell him what I was observing. You had 6 kids because you want to be with your family. You started this career so you could help help clients that you liked. And yet now you found yourself up doing all kinds of stuff and global deals and whatever that doesn't tie to that. And you're not spending any time with your family. And you're chasing money for the sake of it, and you're spending money for the sake of it. So you've lost sight of the purpose behind what you're doing.
And I think that again, what we've seen is that often happens when you lose sight of that purpose and you're not clear about it for yourself, which is most people. I mean, it's really hard to even know what that is. I mean, I don't even, we're all still figuring stuff out. So I don't know if anyone's got it figured out, but when you, so it's easy to be in that position, and most people probably are. But I guess when you have no idea of why you're doing what you're doing, the default, I guess, and we see people in this situation very easily, is the default is that, well, I should just make more money then, because the more money I have, the the happier I would be, or I can do more stuff and that'll make me happier, or I can get stuff for my family and that'll make me happy. You kind of get on this cycle, don't you, where um, I was reading an article the other day, and it was written by someone really good, and they were just asking the question, how much is enough?
Yeah, and you know what? It is a really good question. And there's a counterbalance here if you look at it, because on one side, as a financial advisor, you'll meet plenty of clients that are putting off the future. They're not making decisions about the future. They're not considering the money, or they're not being logical about their planning at all, right? And so they haven't focused on the dollars, and that's creating major consequences for them that they don't need to be there. And then on the flip side, so you've got the pursuing money for the sake of it. Neither of those is the way to go. So for me, as I said, I've been an advisor for 25 years now, individuals and businesses. Primarily at the moment, I focus on helping, other advisors and professionals to get clear about, their purpose, and to do that with other clients. But there's an interesting thing here as well. And that is that despite my 40-something thousand client meetings where I've got this experience from, it's still very difficult for me to have that clarity myself. So, Thabojan, you've been a client of mine. So and that's one of the things I love about you, one of the best advisors that I know, but you still seek external advice. And I'm the same. I still have to have other people, because it's so difficult to be objective about your own situation. It's difficult to be objective about, your relationships and your decisions in your relationships. It's almost impossible to be objective about, your own personal finances. It's almost impossible to be objective about your own business. And if you're in business, then you've got all 3 of those things mixed up together, right? And if you're someone who's, moving forward in their life, even if they're not a business owner, then you've still got the complexities of money and relationships. And how do you be objective about that? Not just about the other people and where you're making decisions, but about yourself. And so what I've come to discover is that, the simple way to describe it, and it is an oversimplification, but a useful one, we have a conscious and subconscious mind, right? And so consciously, our conscious brains, which is, neocortex, prefrontal cortex, etc., primarily, it's kind of like I heard one neurologist describe it as, if we were looking at the human brain as the US economy, then your conscious brain is like the pocket change, versus, the entire dollars in the monetary system of your subconscious. So your conscious brain is important because It's what you use to drive and understand and rationalize. But honestly, it's not very good at interpreting a lot of things. And when you introduce distractions and narrow time limits, so if you're just looking about where you're at today, then you'll get answers like, well, I don't have enough money. I need to save more tax. I've got to pay less fees, whatever it is. But if you take people out of that and look at it in a bigger picture sense, then you can start to reconnect, their subconscious drivers, who they really are, what they really want from life, what's really important to them. So the number one tip that I'd give to anyone, whether it's a colleague of yours tuning in to watch this, or someone who's not an advisor but has a career or a business in other areas, it doesn't matter. The number one tip that I would give anyone is get help to be objective about your decisions. Okay, everyone needs advice. Everyone. I
Yeah,
do, you do. And the reason for that
there's
is
two examples that remind me of that, Baz. One is that I've been reading a book from Morgan Housel called The Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel out of the US, really good financial writer, and he was talking about why, as humans, we're limited in our ability to make good decisions, and relating that back to our personal experiences. So, you've talked about conscious and subconscious, and that's all. Even if you can tap into your own subconscious, you've only got your own. So I've only got my own life experience. So my 40 years and my specific perspective of life that I've grown up with based on the way I was brought up, my cultural background, the friends that I've had, the friends that I've got now, the family, and all the experiences and things that I've done in life is everything that I have in my toolkit to get perspective on the world. However, that perspective, although very valuable and very personal to me, is only a tiny percentage of the reality of what is actually happening around us. So I've learnt this just by dealing with so many clients. I have learnt so much from my clients because the perspectives that they have enriched my ability to see the world so differently and understand the world and myself so differently. So, whether it's advisors or whether it's people that you can genuinely share with and have good conversations with, there's so much you can learn about yourself. And not people that you talk to that are just signaling and telling you what you want to hear, or telling others what they want to hear, but having real conversations with people.
Yeah, I might
The
be a
other
little bit more specific with that. Sorry, I didn't realize you
please
were
do.
going to make another point there. The thing about it is that, I guess if we were to summarize what both of us were saying, but there's a specific point here. It's about the questions that are asked, right? So, with Peter, I'm glad I didn't use his real name because I nearly did then. With Peter, the reason that changed his life is because I changed the questions I was asking. Is this really what you want? Are you being honest with yourself? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? And so what I would say is, whether it's a paid advisor or a mentor or a friend, you need to have others around you that will ask you harder questions. Right? Ask you not the surface level stuff, but deeper and harder questions. That's the kind of advice that I think everyone needs. And it's so important. I mean, there's so many things that I've got stuck on in my life that I just wasn't being objective about it, and just bouncing it off, whether it's a paid advisor that I have, or I've got, over the years, I've accumulated a group of people that I know I can call up and bounce stuff off. And certainly I'd just add to that, one of the best things about being an advisor in my life is all of the shared experiences. As I said, something like 40,000 formal client meetings. Every one of those helps me grow my perspective and experience, and helps me to be, a better advisor with my clients. So yeah, looking for that objectivity, asking the right questions. And one of the questions that is super important is, well, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? What difference am I here to make? And am I building wealth in alignment with being the best version of myself? Now, as you
Yeah,
said,
yeah. Go
we
on,
don't
sorry.
have, I think this is important. I'm just sorry, I'll finish and let you jump in. None of us have an exact answer to this, right? But it's important we have an answer and that we're always evolving it. And if you don't do that with conscious focus, then you lose cohesion, and so much of your decision making is not in alignment with who you actually are and where you actually want to be. So I think that's the answer, rather than having some magic definitive, set of words. It's more that you have it and that you're getting clearer on it all of the time. That's the journey of life.
And being conscious of it, isn't it? I mean, even just thinking about it, most of the time when we think about what's our purpose, as I said, most of us don't know, but at least if we're thinking about it, it enables us to evolve it. I think as well, having those people around us who can ask us the right questions, as you said, and genuinely care enough about us to challenge us in our thinking. So again, it doesn't really work if you just ask the people that are going to tell you what you want to hear so that, you can keep doing what you're doing, unless that is aligned with your purpose, right? So that's totally fine. But I think being challenged as well, and I like the idea of challenging every decision or every thought, because by challenging it, you either confirm for yourself, yes, that is the right thing or the right answer, or by challenging it, you identify, actually, there's something there that doesn't resonate with me. So I love the idea of always challenging things for the benefit of gaining clarity about a particular decision-making process.
Yeah. So asking yourself, look, is this in alignment with my purpose? Is this what will fulfill me more? Will I get more of what I value out of my relationships with others? And am I going to express myself in accordance with, who I actually am? So, being on brand. That's kind of the core elements of, 25 years of taking people on this journey of, well, hang on a second, let's get clarity first before we then move into making other decisions. Now, just for everyone listening, I want them to know that, in case you hadn't gathered, I'm a technical person. Analytical is actually one of my personality traits, right? So even though we're talking about the more esoteric side of decision making, it's not. And for me, I love the nuances of structuring and buyouts and mergers and investments and what's happening at what time, and I love all of those things because I have a technical mind and I help my clients with all of that. But I'll never help them do any of it anymore unless I actually understand what they're trying to do and if it's actually in alignment with them having a better life. So many people make choices for the wrong reasons. And like I said, is it in alignment with your purpose? And, this is a deeper topic. And as, you and I have talked about, but purpose has to be in synchronicity with what you seek to do for others is what you're seeking for yourself, right? And, I've developed a process of getting people at least the definition of that, and one that will evolve over time. For me personally, it's about being myself, right? So why do I help all my clients? Because I want them to be themselves. So if you think about the things I'm saying to you today, even going back to that example of, Peter, what was I really trying to do? Help him to stop living other people's lives, help him to actually be him, to be himself. And for me, that's what I am seeking as well. And wherever I've made the biggest mistakes in my life, it's where I've been trying to be something other than I'm not. So everyone has a unique expression of this. By the way, they're so similar. It's not funny, but everyone has a unique expression. So understanding what it is that you're seeking to give to others and what you're also seeking for yourself is how I would describe coming as close as you possibly can to your purpose.
And I guess, Baz, this concept of purpose, it can sound like um, this huge thing, right? This immense thing that you have to achieve or something like
Yeah,
that.
like
And
I was born to
again,
change the universe or something
yeah,
like
and
that.
again in this world of social media, and you know, I'll say this very flippantly at the risk of offending, but you know, everyone's an entrepreneur, everyone's a change maker, everyone's an influencer, all this sort of stuff. But you know, I think people feel like, oh, I have to be talking about a bigger purpose that's going to change the world, but it doesn't. Like, in my view, that's kind of the definition of purpose that our society has kind of created. I think there are some that are very noble there, but you know, everyone's individual purpose is their own. You know, your purpose might be to spend more time with your kids and enjoy life. It doesn't have to be some grandiose, say, uh, purpose thing. So I think that's really important as well, because this discussion can sometimes cause people to feel like, oh, I don't have internally, you know, the subconscious is saying, oh, I don't have some life changing thing. I just want to do my thing and be happy, right? But I think what, you know, as I'll crown myself the king of giving permission. If you, you know, we give everybody permission to figure out their own purpose for themselves. It's not for anyone to judge anyone else on what they define as their purpose. I think
You
that's
know, it's really
really
interesting
important.
as you're saying that, because I've helped a lot of people, you know, over the years kind of narrow down their own expression of this. And one of the things that is always a bit tricky is if they're worrying about what other people think it is, right, then they'll come up with something that's, you know, off the mark. This isn't for anyone else. This is about being honest enough with yourself. You know, over the years, I've struggled with letting my ego get ahead of me, right? So trying to be something more or show something more than I actually am. And that's where I've caused myself some problems. So this connects back in synchronicity to what I was saying. In all the years of helping clients, I'm just trying to help them get clearer on who they are and to be more in alignment with that true person. And that's what I'm seeking for myself. But everyone has a different expression of that. Now, in the early years, yeah, sure, I thought, okay, I want to go out and invent all these things and change the world. But that's just a definition of size. It's not the actual definition of purpose. And I've certainly come to recognize that I can have an awesome life without having to satisfy the ego part either, or what other people are going to think of me. And the more you become in alignment with yourself, the less the other things matter. And the more you can actually take out of what you have, the relationships you have, you know, the dollars that you get, all of that stuff, you know, becomes more meaningful. You know, I
So
once
can
heard, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
so I was just going to say, so we're talking about the dollars and that. So can, you know, why do we need to even think about this purpose thing? You know, what the hell does a couple of, you know, a financial advisor and myself and a previous financial advisor that now helps people in their businesses, you know, what the hell are we doing talking about purpose? You know, our job's not to do that. Our job's to help people with their money, right? We're there to help people make money. So why, you know, why are we even talking about this, and what is the difference? You know, shouldn't we just stick to what we're doing? And why should people even worry about this concept?
You know, it's a really big question, and I'll try and answer at least from my side of it, because I'd like to see what your answer is as well, um, as simply as I can. Money and objects and things don't of themselves mean anything. So, what's the point of trying to get something for the sake of getting it. That has no purpose. That has no real meaning. And that's why there are so many wealthy people who are, so vastly unhappy. And if I take the example of Peter from earlier, if I hadn't had that conversation with him, he would have finished his career, and he would have finished it by now. He'd probably have significantly more money, but there'd be 6 kids that never really saw their father, right? And he would be vastly more conflicted with himself. So which version ended up being better? Well, every year he sends me a little thank you message still. I haven't been his advisor now for what, 12 something years. So you understand hopefully my point. Money in of itself doesn't mean anything. Neither do physical objects. You have to understand who you are and what it is that you want from life before you make the decisions about, business or dollars or incomes or careers or whatever else. I mean, if you're in a executive position and you're earning 300 grand, but you're miserable, is that a better decision than maybe changing some of your financial circumstances and changing jobs so that you're only earning 200,000 a year, but you're infinitely happier? Well, I'm not saying that's the case, but I sure as hell should be the questions that are being asked. And you can only answer that if you've objectively looked at, well, what do I really want from my life? What does money really mean to me? Not what does money mean itself, because it doesn't even exist. I mean, money's just a concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very quickly,
absolutely.
the physical representation of it, the paper, very quickly, that's disappearing as well. So it's just numbers. So all money is an agreement between people. And by the way, life is all about agreement between people. So the true value that you get from life never comes in isolation. This is what I've discovered in my 25 years of going deep with my clients. You don't get to the end of your life and say, if only I had another car, or, if only I'd worked harder and accumulated more. No one thinks that way. You couldn't be a hermit that never speaks to anyone else and feel ultimately fulfilled. That's my very firm belief. So it doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted. Our value, the real value that we get from life, is always from our interaction with others, our sense of value in what we deliver, and the recognition or reward that we receive from others. And so understanding what that value is, that's your real currency. And if you can harness this, the other thing that I love about it is it's not a mutual exclusive thing. It's not like, all right, you could be wealthy or you can be a nice person that's being the best version of yourself and be poor. No, that's not how it works. The thing is that if you're in alignment with yourself, you always have more energy. You always can create more impact for others. And there's nothing wrong with getting paid for that. It's how it should work. There should always be a value exchange. There's also nothing wrong with saving and investing and building assets so that you can take care of yourself and your family. There's nothing wrong with money. Money in itself isn't evil. Money in itself isn't a reward. And I think it's really important for people to understand that. You can run a business, you can work big hours, just make sure it's actually in alignment with the best version of you, and make sure you're asking the right questions about what the trade-offs are.
Yeah, that's really good, Baz. So, money is a thing. What is it? What is it even? What does it even mean? In the absence of knowing why we're generating money, we will naturally try and have more of it. And, having, talked to thousands of clients over the years, whenever I ask them, the questions to help them understand um, you know, why they want money as well. No one says, "Oh, I just want more." It always, you know, everyone says they've just never been asked the question or never thought about it in the right way. But everyone says, "Oh, it'll just help me achieve other things in my life. It's a tool. It's something that I can use," and that's absolutely the case. So, you know, we've got this tool, and in the absence of knowing how much we need or what to do with it, we tend to just make decisions with it, because I mean, what else are you meant to do if you don't know why? You just, well, if I've got more of it, then, I mean, more of it's better than less of it, right? In isolation. However,
Oh, look, absolutely. If that was the
when,
binary choice, then yes.
yeah. However, we know that when you know, I mean, I was going to say when you know your purpose, but I think that's a false statement. I think when you're thinking about why you want money, and what life's about and what's important to you and what your purpose might be, then you just make far, far better decisions with your money, and money becomes less of a stressful thing which you just have to have more and more of because you don't know how much you need and you don't know why you need it, but it becomes far more of a tool to actually achieve what you want, and therefore you're not as worried about how much you actually need. You're working towards you getting enough of that tool and using that tool called money to live the life you want to live.
Yeah, I'm going to make a statement that sometimes can upset people. So we'll roll with that anyway.
Go for it. Go for it.
Money is only a problem if you've made it a problem. Okay. And this comes from, all of my experience in helping people in these decisions. And by the way, from my own personal experience, I've been broke and I've been wealthy, and not necessarily in that order, right? So I've been wealthy, I've been broke, I've been wealthy, I've been broke. I've done all kinds of different things. I've invested in stuff. I've tried different businesses, but always when there's been an issue with money, there was something in me that was behind it. Okay. And in all of my years of working with clients, it's always been the same way every time. So either you've got more than you need and you are making poor choices and, it's falling through your fingers and disappearing, that's you. Or you're struggling to earn it or keep it, that's you. And the reason that you need to connect back to asking the right questions and to have someone who's willing to challenge you on that is to help you figure out how you're in your own way. And as I said, we need money. I mean, we live in a world where without it, we don't get to have, homes and all the rest of it. So there's nothing wrong with money itself, but it always connects to you. And, I've helped plenty of people who had been rich and broke and in between find a better pathway for that, as I know you have as well. That's why we're, talking about these things together. So I've helped people that, were nearly going broke in business, turn it around and be ultra successful in, a very short space of time. But the change wasn't the business, the change was in themselves. And if we took, Peter as the example, well, it was the reverse of that, going from earning insane amounts of dollars to deciding that the cost of that was too great and it wasn't worth it. And he had more money than he ever needed and didn't have to make those compromises. Just changed the way he was. So he was creating the money problems himself. And that's why I love the, the title of this show, Rich with Purpose, because that's saying have it in alignment. You have both. They're not mutually exclusive. They never are. And it's one of the reasons I now love focusing on working, with businesses, because once I help them and their teams get alignment and sort out how they're in conflict with themselves, the results speak for themselves. I mean, it's the fastest way to make more money ever.
Mm.
right? But it's for the right reasons and it's as a consequence. So that's my key message. These are not mutually exclusive things. Just don't chase the dollars if you don't have the other, ever.
Mm,
Because
absolutely. And
ultimately, let me just bring this bit to a head
mm,
because I've not said it this way before. Ultimately, you can be broke and still fulfilled and being being in alignment with yourself. Okay, so if you have the best version of you, then money's not the causality,
and you
but
can
you
be
can very
wealthy and miserable and
right.
unfulfilled as well. Yeah.
You get exactly the point. So if you are being the best version of yourself, then that guarantees everything else, right? And you and I used this example before. My wife and I went to Fiji, and you took your trip to Cambodia, and both of us observed the same things. Seeing some of the poorest people in the world, yet in so many ways, so much happier and so much more in alignment. And so that's a really important reminder to me about all of the things that I'm talking about. And over the
Mm,
years, I've
mm,
come to realize that, accumulating more stuff for the sake of it, it's not really satisfying the right things. I haven't shared this example publicly, but, I've had sports cars and all kinds of things. So a couple of years ago, I sold my fanciest sports car. And I bought our son, a secondhand car for starting out. But in the time between him getting his learners and getting his license, he grew about a foot. So he actually outgrew this, Holden Astra, right? And so for the last 4 years, no, 3.5 years, I've been driving the Holden Astra, right? Secondhand car. And the reason I drive it is because I still catch myself at the shops getting out of it and going, oh no, I can afford something else. And so it's a reminder to me that your ego can play tricks on you. What other people think of you and what they might, that's out of fear. That's not in alignment with who you are. So I won't let
mm.
myself get a new car until I stop catching myself doing those things, right?
It's a
And
good
by the
test.
way, I'm not gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on cars anymore either. I've kind of come to the conclusion that yes, I like cars, but that was to satisfy other people's expectations, not my own.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a challenge, in the world we live in the society, in the Western world. We've got, we're very fortunate, and we've got the opportunities to take control, to look internally, to even have this conversation. I mean, that example you spoke about, and we spoke about it offline. But when I was saying that me and my wife went to Cambodia, went riding on motorbikes through the paddy fields in one of the poorest countries in the world, visited an orphanage, and if I'm honest, you reflect on it and you feel good about yourself. Someone with a bit of money goes in and helps them out and gives them gifts and buys them stuff to help them, and that's all good. But somewhat selfish as well. But what was really interesting was when we were going through on the way to this orphanage, and you see these really poor families living in straw huts, dirt floors, and the kids are walking around in rags or not wearing anything at all, and just so joyful. And there's the kids, which I guess is a reflection of the innocence of kids. But then you got the people as well that invite you into their home. They can't afford, they're just trying to put meals on the table for themselves if they've got a table, but they'll invite you in to share a meal with them. And it just changes your perspective on things a little bit. I guess, having said that, they don't have the opportunities that we have to try and the choices that we have to make decisions. And I guess when you were saying earlier, Baz, that I guess difficult statement that it's all about us, it's ourselves that cause the problems. That can sound critical, but it's actually just what I guess it's just actually reality. And it's not because we're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's just because we haven't had the opportunity to explore things in a different way. And we're always told by the world, you should go and you should have more money. That's what it's all about. I mean, I'll be critical of our industry to a certain extent that, a lot of the clients that become clients of ours are coming from big investment banks or stockbrokers or advisors at the top end of Collins Street, where everything that they tell their clients is, we're here to make you more money. So clients think that's what it's all about. And the reason they become clients of ours is because we're having conversations that they've never had with anybody else, not because of any other reason, but because we know that they can make better decisions with their money and live more fulfilled lives, if they're not having those conversations already. And the people that we deal with who are in their 70s or 80s or whatever, who have just never had the opportunity to do that, which again, the whole reason I started this podcast is I realized how many people are not talking about this stuff and don't realize how much more they can bring into their lives by thinking about money a bit differently.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I go back to the financial planning part, you've been a planner for a long time, and I was for 15 years, and I certainly work with lots of financial planners now. Um, you think through all of the client scenarios. There's not one client that I've sat down with and I've asked these questions of that already had answered them before. It's never happened. I mean, you'll find people who have pursued more self-awareness and more clarity around these things, and they'll, be further on the journey. But it's never happened that someone was able to answer all of this stuff, or not that they weren't able to answer it, but that had. And I think that's really important. And I'm also talking about, over the years, I've had lots of clients come from other advisors who were just asking them the questions about dollars and where they are. And I think that for me is why I'm so passionate about how important advice is, right? It's why I've spent my life trying to figure out how to make it better. And, why I'm so excited to see, you stepping out as an advisor who does ask those questions, that does have this philosophy, that wants to talk about it publicly. The more clarity you have on yourself, the more you are held or hold yourself accountable to making decisions in alignment with what brings you the best version of you and your best life, the better everything else falls into place. Whether it's money, business, relationships, whatever it is. Always, every time, I've never seen that play out differently. That's why it's so important. And as I said, it's not mutually exclusive. You can have that and still have the money, still have the things. You don't have to go and, live in Fiji or Cambodia and give up everything that you've got. You don't have to do that. And you do it by being objective and asking yourself these questions. And as I said, my best advice is get other people to help you to do it. If you don't have an advisor that's doing that for you, find them. Do it in all areas of your life. I certainly do.
That's good. It's hard, whether it's business or anything, having that third party perspective makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so we've talked about a lot of things, Baz, and it's been a really good conversation. I'm sure it's been very valuable for our listeners. So as we finish up this podcast about purpose, we know that different people have a different way of thinking about their purpose, as we know, and we don't always know what that is. And not only that, the definition of this thing called purpose can change and evolve at different times in their lives.
Mhm.
So Based on your journey so far, how do you think about your purpose right now?
Yeah, I kind of was answering this before, right? So I have I have a way of getting people to a definition. And I want to describe it that way because I like to explain it this way. People are like, a well-cut gemstone, right? There's different facets. So you can hold it in different ways and, see different facets. And so the clarity around why or purpose or whatever, you can look at it in different ways. So it's just a way, but it's important to have a way. So for me, it's about what I seek for myself is what I, seek to deliver to others. And at the core of it, it's about being yourself. And so what do I want to do? What's my purpose? Well, to help others to be the best version of themselves. And if I look at then beyond that, what fulfills me, this helps me understand not just purpose, but then, because there's different layers to that, who do I do it for? Well, using the example I talked about before, I get my greatest fulfillment by seeing other people deliver that same thing to others. So I'm here to help advice and the advice professions and advisors to help their clients have more meaningful life change, life impact. That's my purpose. And where I've got away from that, and I have plenty of times, my business things don't flourish as well, or I don't feel as connected to them. And where I do things in accordance with that, I have more energy. I'm more, I enjoy life more. And so another way to look at it is I'm an empowerer of those who empower others. So it doesn't matter what business decision I'm making, is it going to be in alignment with that? Is it going to bring me more of what I value the most? So for me, connection, affection, harmony, meaning, and love. That's my real currency. If I get paid more of that in my life, then I'll be wealthier. And it's important you understand what those things are. So if I can help people to be themselves, to then pass that forward to others, that's why I understand that I'm supposed to be an advisor to other advisors. And if in all of my interactions, I get more of that reward, and if I'm doing it in a way that's in alignment with the things that fulfill me, then I'm on the right pathway. As I said, you and I have worked together. You've been a client of mine, and you're my friend. I care about you. I care about the things that you're doing. And so every time you and I catch up, I'm getting paid in one of those things that I value the most.
Yeah, I really
And
like the way you said that, Baz, that, the getting paid in a different way. Can you say that again? Those what was it, 5 things? And then you said, if I get paid in one of those ways.
So connection, affection, harmony, meaning, and love. So
and they're different for everybody, but for yourself,
if you get
and
the interesting
those things,
thing is,
that's a way for you to get paid.
Absolutely.
Which is a very good way to think about it, right? Because, well, how do you get paid? Money. That's the only way that we get paid. But you've just defined it differently there, which I think cuts through and just really summarizes what we're talking about here.
So, I mean, I'm fairly well known in certain certain circles. Sorry, I've built a profile. I've done those things. I get asked by lots of people for help. I probably do 100+ mentoring meetings a year that I don't get paid for. Right. So people are always asking me for my help. And one of the things that I always have to be able to answer, well, am I going to get paid? Right. So is it going to bring me connection, affection, harmony, meaning, and love? Will this person actually listen and take action and therefore be more of themselves? Will this be doing some of the 5 things that fulfill me? So will I be spending my time doing things that are fulfilling, in alignment with my purpose, and getting rewarded with what I value the most? And that's an easy way for me to then define whether I'm going to say yes, whether there's money involved or not. And obviously I can't do everything without getting paid, and nor should anyone. So I can only give my greatest value when there's value coming back, because that's what makes any relationship sustainable.
But there's different ways to get paid.
Exactly. And for anyone that's getting paid financially, that's great. Just make sure that you're also getting paid in your real currency. That's where the alignment comes. Now, if you can create alignment in your personal financial decisions, in your businesses, in your career that does those same things, everything's better. Everything. And I've never seen an example where that came at a true consequence of dollars. Even in the example with Peter, right? Sure, the net asset value in the world of his finances technically went down. It didn't really, because he didn't have those assets vested. His future income potential went down. But you know what? He was spending money like crazy. He was doing things for the wrong reasons. He was not making himself happy. He was making himself more unhappy. So he became far wealthier as a consequence of that. The money was better applied. It meant more. He went from going, I don't have enough, I have to accumulate, to I actually have more than I ever need. Let's make smart decisions with that. Mm-hmm. So it's never has to be at the expense of, let's call it, achievement, physical achievement. It doesn't have to be at the expense of that.
I think that's a really good way to wind things up and just, hit the nail on the head there, Baz, that it doesn't have to be at the cost of achievement and other things in life. And if you're in synchronicity with yourself and really understand what's important to you, then it puts you in a position to make really smart decisions with your money. Thanks so much, Baz, for coming on today.
Absolute pleasure.
Really great chat.
Absolute pleasure. I look forward to doing it again.
Brilliant. And from here, we'll just be expanding with other guests, getting more specific in areas of how to think about your money and making money decisions, but always bringing it back to this concept of purpose. So you've set it up beautifully. Thank you, Baz.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Our aim is to share the knowledge with as many people as possible, so please share it with everyone you know. And if you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and visit our website, richwithpurpose.com.au, to get access to all our free resources. See you next time.